Welcome to Financial Minds Meet the Experts. I'm your host, Jaime Agostino. As you know, on this podcast, we're joined by financial industry experts to talk about topics, trends, and themes that credit union professionals need to know about. Today, I am joined by Vizo Financial's Vice President of Administration, Erin Doan. Erin has both her CUDE and her CUERME designation, and we're going to discuss how to balance that, the mission of the credit union and risk management. So, Erin, welcome. Thank you so much for being here and taking this time to speak with me today.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Happy to be here.
All right. So, how have having your, DE, and hopefully I'm saying it right, CUERME, or is there a shortcut for that?
Yeah, I've heard that. I've also heard quirmy, which I'm
Okay.
not sure how I feel about that, but yeah, I've heard it both ways.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep saying CUERME then. Designation, as well as your experience, how's it shaped your perspective on the credit union movement?
Yeah. Well, for those of you that are not familiar with these acronyms, the CUDE is the Credit Union Development Educator designation. And this is a training that's run by the National Credit Union Foundation. And it is all about the mission of the credit union movement. So you learn about the 8 cooperative principles of credit unions and the development issues that are impacting the people and the communities that we serve as credit unions, which of course is very near and dear to my heart because that really gets to the heart of the mission of who we are. There's also a lot of emphasis on practicing empathy with our credit union members and discussing how credit unions can position themselves as trusted partners within the communities that we serve. So that's really the focus of the DE training. Whereas the CUERME, that is the Credit Union Enterprise Risk Management Expert designation, which is quite a mouthful. And that's really focused on identifying, assessing, and managing a credit union's risk. So, in our modern times, risks are everywhere. And we really have a responsibility as credit unions to be good stewards of our members' money, to manage our risk in ways that protect our financial institutions and the natural person members that are placing their trust in us and in our industry. So for me, I really view risk management as a top priority for every credit union because our cooperative principles and our relation to our members who own us. We're not just satisfying shareholders. This is really for each and every one of our members.
Yeah. So then what's the role of empathy, as you stated, and community awareness, which are core to a DE, in assessing then this operational risk?
So I think we have to consider the real life situations that our credit union members are facing. And this is where that empathy comes in. Assessing organizational risk may not sound super exciting and engaging. I completely understand that. But when we consider the role that our credit unions play as trusted partners in the communities we serve, it's paramount that we properly assess and mitigate the risks that we're facing. And I think always keeping the face and the real world stories of our members at the forefront adds to that purpose and the mission to the risk management work that we do every day. I mean, we're managing that risk for that end user to protect them and their money.
Right. So in your words, what does it mean to balance mission and risk in today's credit union environment?
So I always have the member at the top of my mind. And, the options that I consider, the decisions I make are always made from the consideration of the impact to the member. For me, that's where the mission comes in. We're not just crunching numbers and making investments and processing payments. Our work at the corporate credit union is contributing to the credit union mission to support our member credit unions so that they're best positioned to serve their members and communities. I balance that with the fact that we're also beholden to national and state regulations and guidance regarding how we assess and mitigate the risks at our organization. At Vizo Financial, we have a strong ERM program in place, and we seriously evaluate all the pillars of risk that are highlighted by the NCUA to ensure that we're running a safe and sound corporate and that we're being responsible with the funds that our members have entrusted to us. If you're not familiar with those pillars, they include evaluating credit risk, interest rate risk, liquidity risk, transaction risk, compliance risk, strategic risk, and reputation risk. So it really is all encompassing with many areas to consider, but it gives a holistic view. To ensure that we remain a trusted partner for our member credit unions.
Yeah, I may have sat in several of those meetings that you were mentioning there, Erin, in regards to enterprise risk management. So then, how do you ensure that staff, from front lines, the whole way through the boardroom, stay grounded in mission without overlooking risk?
Well, I think a lot of this comes down to education. As leaders at the credit union, we have to engage our employees in the credit union mission so that they understand the purpose of the credit union in the community. And that mission is vital to how we operate, how we serve our members, and it's a differentiator for us against other financial institutions, that we're competing against. We also have to engage all levels of staff and the board in the risk management activities of the credit union. So this means executive management and the board should be setting a risk appetite and reviewing that regularly, from the executive level of the organization. And then employees from each business unit should be engaged in completing operational risk assessments, and there needs to be ongoing conversation about risk management so that it truly becomes integrated into the culture of the credit union at every level. It's not just seen as a responsibility of the CEO or the board. It really becomes everyone's responsibility.
Yeah, yeah. So how can a strong then risk management framework actually enable innovation and service expansion rather than restrict it?
Oh, I really love this question. Because I think, when you're attuned to the risks posed to your credit union and that's fully integrated into your culture, like I just spoke about, you easily align your risk with strategy setting, and it just brings a lot more clarity around goals for the future. So you can create an environment where you can safely innovate and be creative with new products and services because you've already calculated your risk tolerances and what you're comfortable with, that risk appetite. And then innovation just kind of comes easily. You've sort of created like that safe sandbox to innovate in, and it gives you that freedom to define new strategies or develop new products and services.
All right. So then what advice would you give to credit unions that feel, mission drift is the price of becoming more risk adverse?
I would just encourage you to go back to storytelling. Put yourself in a specific member's shoes and consider how they view your credit union. Consider the story your credit union wants to tell that member and the larger community that you serve. Um, you may have to overtly state that connection of, as a financial cooperative that's wholly owned by our members, we have an obligation to run a risk management program that keeps our members' money safe, ensures our future viability, and continues to serve the needs of the community. And that's very much aligned with our mission and the
Yeah,
cooperative principles of credit unions.
absolutely, absolutely. Any final thoughts for our listeners today?
Yeah, I think I just want to share, I think many credit unions are getting the mission side right. There's a strong connection to the purpose of the credit union movement. I think a lot of us really feel that. We live that every day. That comes very natural. But I oftentimes see credit unions be challenged with the risk management side of things. What do I do? Where do I start? How do I evolve our culture to be more risk minded? So, if anybody listening is feeling that way, there are resources out there to help you. I mentioned those pillars of risk earlier. Those are all detailed out on NCUA's website, and that's a great way or a good place to start, to learn about what they are and how you can start assessing those risks. There's also a lot of partners out there that can help develop a risk management program. Or, I welcome you to reach out to a Vizo Financial corporate account manager with any questions that you might have. Anybody on our ERM team would be happy to speak with you to answer questions or help you get started with something. So, just reach out because there are definitely resources there to help you get started.
All right. Well, Erin, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie.
All right. This episode of Financial Minds is brought to you by Vizo Financial's Payment Conference. Join Vizo Financial's Virtual Payments Conference, an online event bringing together industry leaders, financial institutions, and payment professionals for an in-depth exploration of evolving payments landscape. The virtual event will be held November 5th through the 6th. This year's agenda is packed with essential sessions focused on most critical payment issues and advancing facing today's payments worlds. For more details, to view the agenda, visit Vizo Financial's website at www.vfccu.org. As always, thanks for listening and make it a great day.